Discretion is advised. Your mama black.
This program contains language and sequences some viewers may find disturbing.
An airline contract worker is facing charges, accused of exposing himself to a 16-year-old girl at Charlotte's airport. At 5, we told you Oliver Webb worked for a company that escorts passengers, including unaccompanied minors. Noon 11, Eyewitness News reporter Elsa Gillis learned the teenager was scheduled to fly on an American Airlines flight.
Airline officials tell me as soon as they learned about what happened, a manager stepped in to help and stayed in communication with her parents until she got on the plane safely.
People trust, and then something like that is just horrible.
Travelers at Charlotte Douglas Airport were disgusted to learn a person trusted with helping young children and the elderly is accused of doing something so disturbing.
Terrible.
Early Sunday morning, Charlotte-Mecklenburg police arrested 21-year-old Oliver Webb for exposing himself at the airport. Airport sources tell Channel 9 Webb is an employee with Prospect Air, a service that helps escort passengers, including minors traveling alone. Those sources tell us Webb exposed himself to a 16-year-old girl.
It breaks my heart. Something like that would happen to a 16-year-old.
We took the allegations to Prospect Air, who told us the company is aware of the very serious allegation involving one of its employees, saying Prospect does not tolerate any behavior or activity that endangers passenger safety. American Airlines told me the teen's flight was canceled, and being a minor, she needed help booking a hotel room. That's when the alleged incident happened. Airline officials say the teen texted her parents immediately, who contacted police and the airport. American Airlines says the manager stepped in right away to take care of the young girl.
I think they did the right thing.
Something like that can't happen to the elderly or our teenagers.
Webb is charged with indecent exposure. Prospect would not confirm his employment status or detail their screening or training process for their employees. Reporting live from Charlotte Douglas International Airport, Elsa Gillis, Channel 9, Eyewitness News.
Tonight, a student steps off the school bus and is violently assaulted. The dramatic video has his parents pushing for punishment. Good evening and welcome to Channel 4 News at 6. Tom has the night off.
And tonight, the family of that boy is asking for a harsh sentence for their son's accused attacker. Let's go to Channel 4's Edward Birch right now. He spoke with the family. Edward.
Dimitri and Alan, this took place last January. Their son has since recovered from his injuries. But I'm told they want the public to see these videos because the accused attacker will be sentenced next month. Now, we want to warn you, the videos you're about to see are graphic.
We've been trying to bring justice for our son and also for the community.
John and Teresa Bodel asked me not to identify their son. The attack took place on January 20th, 2016. At the time, their son was a 10th grader at Riverdale High School.
2 assailants drove up in a car. One jumped out, jumped on his back, beat him unconscious. Our son doesn't remember anything. I don't know that I'd ever seen a video that strong before.
The assailant, 18-year-old Michael Ladd, pled guilty to felony aggravated assault. Bodel says the videos were released to him last week by the Murfreesboro District Attorney's Office.
We've seen no repentance on the part of Michael Ladd, and so we want the community to be safe from him.
Teresa Bodel still hasn't seen the videos, more than a year later.
It's too painful for me just to listen about it, the way I found my son after the attack.
We're told these videos were shot with another assailant who is cooperating with the DA's office. According to the police report, the reason for the assault is unknown. In it, Teresa Bodel said her son had been threatened by Ladd for more than 6 months prior to the attack.
I'm no lawyer. When I look at the video, it feels like attempted murder.
The Bodels are now homeschooling their son. Now, we want to say that Michael Ladd was a student at Riverdale High School, but Principal Tom Nolan tells me there were no incidents on campus and no complaints filed. I did reach out to the Murfreesboro DA's office for comment, but did not hear back. Sentencing for Ladd is February 24th.
Election began today in the trial of a Gwinnett County couple accused of keeping their oldest son locked in the small room for nearly 2 years. They are facing several child cruelty charges.
11 Alive's Joe Hankey spent the day in the courtroom as the defendants and the prosecutors questioned 60 potential jurors. Well, here at the Gwinnett County Courthouse, Tyrion and Ricardo Wimbush are representing themselves and have begun selecting the jury that will hear their case. This trial comes nearly 2.5 years after Georgia DFACS received an anonymous tip questioning the couple's treatment of their 13-year-old son. Ricardo Wimbush faces 4 counts of first-degree cruelty to a child, while Tyrion faces 3 counts of second-degree cruelty to a child.
The defendants have each pled not guilty and denied each and every allegation contained in the indictment.
In the courtroom, Tyrion could be seen closely paying attention to jurors as Ricardo often took notes. In a previous hearing, a court-appointed attorney representing the Wimbushes' 10 children described the conditions she found the couple's oldest son living in.
He indicated to me that he was confined to a small room in the basement. His mother visited him a couple times a day to take him to the restroom. Otherwise, he had a plastic jar in his room should he need to relieve himself.
Today, Chief Assistant DA Dan Mayfield asked jurors about news they had seen of the case, and also Ricardo, a former all-conference Georgia Tech football player.
You form any opinions about guilt or innocence based upon what you saw in the news?
More than half of the jurors stated they had seen coverage of the case, and a half dozen talked about it with friends or family. One woman says it could influence her.
Could you set that aside and return a verdict solely on the evidence that you received from the witness stand, the physical evidence, and the instructions from the court?
I'm not certain I could.
You're not certain you could?
The Wimbushes questioned jurors who indicated they had been abused or knew someone abused as a child.
Would you like to speak about that with other jurors present?
And Ricardo inquired about one juror's stepfather.
Do you feel like that will negatively impact you in any way just by him pleading guilty to sexual abuse?
Overall, very few jurors admitted to having issues that would impact their judgment or ability to remain impartial. But a small group did say the young age of the victim could make it challenging. And once a jury is selected in this case, the trial itself is expected to last at least a couple weeks. Back to you.
24 years old, now booked here in the Gwinnett County Jail. As you mentioned, he's accused of opening fire on 2 of his father's friends who were visiting their home. Devon Jones is now charged with 2 felony murder charges along with 2 counts of aggravated assault. Now, police say his father invited over 2 friends, and it was at that home on Hopkins Mill Lane. At some point, police say Jones pulled out a handgun and shot the 2 visitors. One man died at the scene, the other died at the hospital. It appears even the suspect's father can't shed light on what led up to the killings.
The father was at the home when this happened. Of course, he was not aware that it was about to happen. Detectives, again, are still working with him to try and piece together a sequence of events that would, make sense about why something like this would happen. But as of yet, we don't have a motive for this shooting.
Police say Jones took off after the shootings, but his father helped police track him down early this morning. We went by that home tonight. Jones' father was there, but was adamant that he did not want to make any comments. As for the victims, we don't have their names yet. Police say they need to notify all of their loved ones.
Exclusive. We now have the surveillance video of passengers at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport taking down a man who attacked a police officer and grabbed for his gun. The passengers saw what was happening and then sprang into action. Fox 5 was the first station to tell you about this attack, and now it's the only place you'll see the video and hear from the passengers who took down that man who attacked that officer. Fox 5's Morris Diggs broke the story. He joins us now live from the airport. Morris, these passengers kept a bad situation from getting worse.
It certainly seems that way. One of the passengers told me that this attacker hit the officer with such force he left the cop incoherent. Clearly, he thinks that this attacker was on the verge of getting the officer's gun and spraying gunfire in a crowded terminal. It was late December. At the airport, the typical holiday coming and going.
A gentleman came up and just hit him, and I heard a lady just yell. She said, stop him, stop him, stop him.
We highlighted the never-before-seen images of a large man rushing and tackling a police officer in the terminal. He's pounding the cop in the face. The man you just heard from comes from the right, the first to rush to his aid, getting on top of the attacker.
I thought it was over with, but all of a sudden the lady said he's trying to get his gun.
Allie Brewster and Timothy Farrell are two of the men who ran to danger, while others ran away or seemed oblivious to the commotion.
There was some screaming and some yelling while we were trying to control the individual. So, but there were people that were very scared.
A woman with a baby got out of there, and there were people all around.
There was people all around, but they seemed like they were just scared. They just panicked due to the fact that he was going for his gun. He was beating the officer. He hit him in the face. I saw that lick. So from that point, I tried to grab his wrist and put him in an Aikido hold to break his wrist.
I was asking someone get me the police officer's cuffs. I even asked the police officer a few times, you know, give me your handcuffs, give me your handcuffs. But he was very unresponsive. I mean, he was nearly on the verge of blacking out. I mean, if the gentleman was going for the officer's gun, he would have gotten the gun.
You didn't run away. Why not?
I didn't run away because I came up in law enforcement. My dad is a police officer, my sister's a police officer, and I came up in that standard way of living what is done right. And even though sometimes we all fall short of what is done right, you still have to function what is done right.
And typically there are police officers all around the airport. It just so happens that for what may have been 2 or 3 minutes, there was no officer immediately available to help the officer on the floor. Now, the suspect has been identified as Anthony Phillips. He faces a number of charges, including aggravated assault. Reporting live from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, I'm Morse Diggs. Fox 9.